What's up, everybody? Welcome to the show. That is Mike Fuji up top. I am Al Norfleet, and together we are at the 50 with Fuji and Fleet. And today, our show, we're talking about the upcoming game of the Philadelphia Eagles versus the New Orleans Saints. And speaking of the Saints, our guest is a producer and radio personality at 90.9 FM in Hemingway, South Carolina. And he is the host of State of the Saints podcast. What's going on, TJ?
Hey, how you doing, Al? Thank you for having me, Mike. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Appreciate you coming on. I know. Just to touch on our side, I mean, our Eagles I was there minute 56 and they just blew it. But just a disgrace. No excuses. Plenty of blame to go all the way around. The sky was falling yesterday in Philly, and now we're still licking our wounds.
Oh, man.
Now we're moving on to Sunday, short week. How's everybody doing tonight? Thanks for tuning in. Week 3, let's go.
All right, TJ. Now, you were born and raised in New Orleans, correct?
That's correct, sir. I was born and raised in New Orleans. Stayed there till I was about 19 years old. I was a young sophomore at Dillard University, HBCU down there. And unfortunately, Hurricane Katrina hit, which caused me and my family to relocate to Mississippi, where I graduated from the Jackson State University, another HBCU. I'm very proud of my HBCU roots. Very proud of being a New Orleanian and a Saints fan. Been a Saints fan my entire life. I mean, I can just remember my grandmother, who has been a Saints fan since the expansion back in '67, and my grandfather, who is a minister. I can just remember her after church, like creeping out in the van, heading back to the house to watch the second half. That's my memories right there, Al. I'm a true New Orleans Saints fan, and now I get to cover the team is a blessing.
Okay, so you've got to be extremely happy with the start so far. It seems as if they're hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, honestly, Al, it came out of nowhere. The fact is, nobody expected for the New Orleans Saints to look this good, and if they did, they didn't expect to do it for them to do it this early. The Saints are putting up 40 points. They put up 91 points over the last 2 weeks. But I tell people, the Saints have put up a total of 139 points in their last 3 regular season contests. I mean, they beat the Atlanta Falcons 48-17 to finish out the season. So the momentum that they had, they definitely brought it into the 2024 season. They're doing the things the right way. It seems like guys are buying into Dennis Allen and his system and what he's trying to bring to the table. Clint Kubiak has done wonders for that offense. They look like a completely different team right now. So as a Saints fan, and I know many Saints fans that support the team, they're loving what they're seeing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Mike?
TJ.
What's up, Mike?
Carolina. Good. How are you? Again, thanks for tuning in. Hey, your Saints destroyed the Carolina Panthers, went into Jerry World, smacked Dallas up and down the field. Thank you for that. But now we got to cross paths and meet in the Big Easy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what's going on with this Eagles defense, but Bijan Robinson, Algier, they just ran over the Eagles, and I'm afraid. I hate to say this, but I hope it ain't going to be the same for Alvin Kamara this week. I mean, he's just balling lights out along with David Carr. That offense is just clicking. I mean, is there something new this year with just the chip on their shoulder or what?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of a little bit of both. I think that this team, one thing that it has going for itself is the continuity. They didn't really change anything about this offense. You still have familiar faces. This is the same offense. I don't see anybody that different, for the exception of Cedric Wilson, who's a part of the starting rotation with the wide receivers. Everybody kind of knows one another, so you still have that chemistry there. I just think that when you hear the entire season, or the offseason rather, that you're not very good. You're not very talented. You're not going to win any more than 6 games. I think Vegas had them going at 7.5 for the season. When you're hearing these things, on top of the fact that they're saying Derek Carr is in the bottom 20s, as a quarterback, I mean, you have no choice but to come into the season with a chip on your shoulder. But I just think that they're just buying into what they're doing. And honestly, it's working. Clint Kubiak has brought in that San Francisco 49ers type style offense where you put an emphasis on running the football. And the Saints have already had a really good defense throughout the years. They just needed offense to complement this defense. And now they have it. And, they're taking advantage of it. So I just think it's a completely different mind frame. It's a completely different attitude. And it's a completely different offense. So I chunk that up to the success that they had early in this season.
Yeah, right now, speaking of the offense, according to the next gen stats, they are 3 in offense at a 45.5 points a game and the 405 yards a game. And it just, like Mike, I'm kind of afraid for next weekend for us.
Well, I wouldn't honestly, I think that this week you're really honestly going to see what the Saints are made of. I think that a lot of people kind of underestimated this team because, once again, what I was alluding to earlier, nobody expected them to be as good as they are right now. But now you have a week of everybody's talking about Clint Kubiak. He's the toast of the town. Everybody's talking about how great this team is. Derek Carr is in the MVP conversation. If you're a team going into New Orleans, you want to shut up that noise. And
right.
I go back to the game, and I watched the Monday Night Football game, and, it wasn't what the Falcons did to the Eagles. It was more so of the decision-making down the stretch. And when you can think about that, you can kind of tighten up some of those situations. Maybe bringing out Jake Elliott for that field goal, you're up 3-0 right there, right? Maybe, for that on that 3rd and 4 before you threw the ball to Saquon, how about your offensive line stand up? I mean, Matthew Judon in the neutral zone. The game would have been over right there. So it's just the little things. I mean, I wouldn't get too far away from what the Philadelphia Eagles are doing. And I also noticed that, with the Saints defensively, they struggle against quarterbacks that can move around in that pocket. And Jalen Hurts, I'll never forget this. His very first game as a starter was against the New Orleans Saints. And the Saints had a really good defense at that time, and they had no answer for him. And this was before you all had some of that formidable offensive weaponry that you all had. So that dynamic kind of scares me. I seen earlier in the game, it seemed like Jalen was a little bit hesitant to run the football. I don't know if he's trying to become more of a pocket passer, but if he can get out of that pocket, I mean, he turns into a running back. He's a very strong kid. He's not going to go down with that first line of attack. So, your offense, the Eagles' offense, is formidable. And I combine the fact that everybody is going to be giving the Saints their best shot now that everybody's thinking that they're going to be the class of the NFC right now.
Right. All right. I want to take this opportunity to welcome in Rod Maaddi. He just showed up. Rod is a pro football writer, senior writer for the Associated Press. Welcome, Rob. How are you?
What's up, fellas? How are you?
We're doing well, man.
Going on a little early with us.
Yeah,
thank you for joining us.
I just wrapped up some flag football practice with the girls and got to take them out for ice cream. So I said I'm gonna run in there and do my interview, man. Right. I got beat up worse than the Eagles in week 1. We got I think it was 42-0. My team lost, so I might have to fire myself.
Hey, Rob,
let me introduce you to TJ Jones. He's out of the New Orleans area. He is a radio producing personality, and he hosts the State of the Saints podcast.
What's up, TJ? What's up, man?
All right, how you doing, sir? Thank for having me and chatting with me here tonight.
Appreciate you guys. And I know Fuji well, man. I know.
Yes, sir. I know you both well from Broad Street South.
Yeah,
had TJ on over there a couple times.
What do you got on there? You look like Kirk Cousins, man, with the necklace.
Yeah.
What is that about? You lose a bet? What do you got on?
Okay. Just showing the love.
I thought you'd go shirtless with that, like Kirk. And can you sing like he can?
Nah, I wish. Would I be sitting here if I could?
Okay, Rob.
Yeah,
we were just sitting here.
both coming on tonight. Yeah, we're just diving into the crossover from, we're still licking our wounds here in Philly. It was a short week, down in the Big Easy this week. So,
So what is your opinion from Monday night, Rob?
It was a major disappointment, the way that game, I had the Eagles winning and the Falcons covering. And my biggest concern at one point was, the Eagles score a touchdown here, and we're going to blow that out of the water. I'm not going to get my cover. And then they blow the game. Like, I just keep going back to the third down call. I know everybody's beating up on Saquon for dropping the pass, and he's got to catch that ball, get the first down, and run out the clock. But I just think of, like, watching that game, everybody's watching thinking there's no timeouts left. Run the football on third down, bleed another 30 seconds, and maybe you get a yard and a half, maybe you get 2, maybe you get stopped, maybe you get the first down. Then you can run again on fourth, try and draw them offside, run the ball again on fourth, bleed some more clock. And it was just the time mismanagement there was atrocious, and that allowed Kirk to lead that 70-yard comeback, and it was just real deflating. And the defense in that position at that moment, they're doing things that they hadn't done all game, and they're giving Darnell Mooney space. Kirk's able to pick them apart. Like, what are you doing? They got to get some rush. I don't know what their defensive edge rusher situation is like right now, but I tweeted out afterwards, their best edge rusher is currently holding out for the New York Jets. It's Hassan Reddick. Like, this team's got to get to the quarterback, and they can't get any pressure, and that's allowing guys like Kirk Cousins, a guy who we know is coming back off an Achilles injury, just get some pressure in his face. He's going to be uncomfortable, and they couldn't do it, on that last drive. So it's a real deflating loss. The good news for Eagles fans, Dallas lost. You don't have to worry about the Giants. You don't have to worry about the Commanders. It's a 2-team race in the NFC East. And the way the Cowboys looked against New Orleans, I still think this is, even though we're 2 games in and anything can happen, this is the Eagles' division to lose. I don't see the Cowboys being as competitive as they were last year.
Now, TJ, going back to what you were saying about, you didn't think that it was that bad of a game or something to that nature. But my thing is, we had no defense, like Rob was just saying, no defense and no pressure. But at the same time, when we go back to that third down play, because I have some film here, and they have 7 men in the box. And so I think that was the right call, but you just got to catch the ball. He took his eyes off the ball for that split seconds, and he knows that, and probably nobody in Philadelphia feels as bad as he does,
Yeah. Yeah, I think with Vic Fangio, I mean, over the course of time, I mean, we know that he doesn't really blitz. I mean, that's just not his thing. He wants to get pressure with 4, and he hopes that they get home. But I just think that you have to be able to make those adjustments in certain games. You got to be able to come up with some exotics. You got to be able to get some stunts going, some type of blitz to get Kirk Cousins off his spot. Like we heard, all the talk about him not being healthy. I mean, even like watching him throw the football, it's pretty obvious that he's still dealing with that Achilles injury. Maybe he's not trusting his body just yet. He was moving around the pocket, but just gingerly. And I just think that maybe if you did a little bit of something, maybe just, created a rush or a blitz just to get him off his spot, I think that you would have found success. I think that it worked last week in week 1 versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Well, a few weeks ago, rather. I think their ability to be able to rush Kirk Cousins to kind of speed up that clock, it paid dividends. And 2 minutes left in that game, he threw that interception, and they sealed the deal. I just think that the game plan of Vic Fangio down the stretch, it's fine to stay true to yourself, but it comes a time when you got to make a play to win the game. And
right.
You had to go ahead and switch it up. And I think the fact that he didn't really cost this team. I mean, it was pretty easy for them to just drive down the field. It was like maybe 3 or 4 plays, that they got down that field. So I think Vic Fangio has to come up with a different game plan going forward.
Mike?
Rob, as far as the Eagles going back to last year, no sacks in the last 6 games. I know we're 2 games into the new season, but is it time to panic yet with the pass rush?
I think it's too early to panic, but it's certainly time to be overly concerned. Like the concern level is closer to panic than calm, because you're not getting at a quarterback. You don't have Hassan Reddick. You've got guys who haven't done it week in and week out. And then you look at the amount of money that they gave Bryce Huff, and his stat line looks like mine and yours, all zeros across the board. What is he doing? How is he not showing? He had a nice year last year in a contract year. He got paid by the Eagles for what he did last year in New York, and he's not even giving you a quarter of the effort or the put. I'm not going to question his effort. He's not giving you a quarter of the production that he was able to give the New York Jets. And you're not going to win a lot of football games on a defensive side if you can't make quarterbacks uncomfortable. And now you're facing a team this week in New Orleans that is clicking on all cylinders like no one I've ever seen. I mean, we talk about Brady and the Patriots in that undefeated year, Peyton Manning and all the great years that he's had. Derek Carr led the Saints to 15 scores on his first 15 drives this year. Think about that. 11 touchdowns, 4 field goals on 15 drives. Now, granted, one was a Carolina defense, but the other 6 drives, 6 touchdowns against the Cowboys defense that looked pretty good in week 1 against Deshaun Watson and the Browns. And all of a sudden, they're home. They got the Jerry World crowd, and they can't do anything against Derek Carr and the Saints. They got weapons, Rashid Shaheed, Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, and that's going to be a major concern for the Eagles if they can't make Derek Carr at least think about getting hit.
Absolutely. Well, as the old saying, we're going to see, but I know the people here in the Delaware Valley and the Eagles Nation, they having some major headaches this week,
Oh, you're up minute 56, and then it's like the bottom fell out.
I will say this, guys. I'm stunned by the line in this game. It's 2.5. How are the Saints, who've outscored opponents 91, 92 to 29, they dominated Dallas. The Eagles are on a short week, coming off a loss on Monday night where they looked shaky. How are they going to New Orleans and only a 2.5-point underdog? That to me is one of those games where the line is telling me something. So we always give the home team 3 points. Mm-hmm. So Vegas right now is looking at this game saying, if this was a neutral field, the Eagles are a 0.5 point better than the New Orleans Saints through 2 weeks, because it's 2.5. It's a 2.5 point spread. How are the Eagles right now a 0.5 point better and without A.J. Brown? All that to say, I got to pick every football game, week in and week out. My picks are documented. 2-0 with my upset specials, and my picks are already out there today. I took the Eagles to win this game as my upset special of the week.
Mike, go ahead.
TJ.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand to a certain extent, why the Philadelphia Eagles are respected the way they are against the New Orleans Saints. I was saying, Rob, before you got on, the Saints struggle against scrambling quarterbacks. I mean, I can remember last year Josh Dobbs was with the Vikings for like 2 weeks. And, I mean, he looked like Lamar Jackson and Michael Vick combined out there. Like, they just – I don't know what it is. They struggle against running quarterbacks. And Jalen Hurts, he creates a matchup nightmare for the Saints defense. Now, this is the huge question for me. The Saints have been answering a lot of questions over the last couple of weeks. My question is, can they neutralize Jalen Hurts? Can they not allow him to scramble for those extra yards to sustain those drives? And, I just think that, you have to continue to be consistent, and I look at the Philadelphia Eagles. I was more concerned about this game than I was against the Dallas Cowboys, because Dak Prescott, yes, he can get out of the pocket and scramble, but he's not looking to do that. He's looking to make plays from the pocket. But when you have someone like Jalen Hurts that can move around in the pocket, I just think that he just creates problems for the New Orleans Saints. It's just not the way this defense has been structured to be able to neutralize running quarterbacks. So I think that they'll be able to kind of sustain some drives, maybe keep the ball out of the hands of the offense. And that's what you want going on the road. You want to control the time of possession. So if the Eagles can control the time of possession, maybe go on some of those long drives, then, this game can be much closer. I just look at week after week. You have some really good coaches on the offense and defensive side of football in the National Football League. And when they're starting to put those compilation tapes together, seeing what you're doing week after week, they come up with schemes to be able to neutralize the things that you've been, running wild with. So, I look at the Philadelphia Eagles, and I can understand why the game is, they're saying it's going to be as close as it is. I mean, I just think that this is a tough matchup for the New Orleans Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, I see Jalen having an opportunity here too, and you see the Eagles, other than last year when they collapsed at the end, in early last year when they struggled to win because they were 10-1, they didn't lose too many games to start, but when they had they bounced back, and they've shown that ability, and I just think going on the road, people are doubting them now. The Saints are flying high, and you see a line that's only 2.5 points. It's telling me that the Eagles are ripe for a little bit of an upset. Like, as good as the Saints are playing right now, I still don't think New Orleans is the best team in the NFC when all said and done. I know Dennis Allen's got a nice defense. I love Mario Davis. I think he's one of the best quietly underrated players defensively in the NFL. You don't hear, like, when you talk about linebackers, you've heard about Bobby Wagner. You hear about all these other guys, the edge rushers, TJAY, Max Crosby, Chris Jones, interior, Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons. People don't mention Mario Davis as an elite defensive player, and he's a guy who can be an absolute game wrecker. Just ask Tom Brady about him. He used to just blow up the Bucks and Brady, except in that one playoff game where the Bucks beat them and ended Drew Brees' career, went on to win the Super Bowl. So I think the Eagles have to figure out a way to account for DeMario, and I anticipate, like you said, man, you got to run the football. You got to keep that high-powered offense off the field, and this could be a week where you have like one or two of those fluke plays, whether it's a special teams big play, a defensive big play. But I've just seen the Eagles in situations like this where it seems like they're down, they're out, and their backs are against the wall, and they surprise people. And I'm expecting that out of them this week.
Yeah, what I'm sorry, Al.
No, go ahead.
No, what I was saying is I do feel like the Saints are going to win this football game. And the reason why is I look at the New Orleans Saints in the way that their defense is structured. Yeah, Jalen Hurts can scramble, but the absence of A.J. Brown is huge in this game. The fact is the Saints play a lot of man-to-man coverage, and you have Devontae Smith out there who's very, very, very good. But, I think that they trust that matchup, rather it be him versus Paulson Adebo, him versus the rookie Kool-Aid McKinstry, or Marshawn Lattimore is going to play in this game. So I just think that it kind of changes the way the Saints are going to, approach this game. Dotson, with the Eagles, he just got there. He made a play on Monday, but he's still trying to figure some things out. And I don't know the status of Wilson, the rookie out of Florida State. I don't know his status. I know he was on your injury list. I don't know if he's going to play or not. He had a hamstring, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
he didn't practice today. But all I'm saying is, like, I think the Saints kind of trust their matchup. So with that, I feel like that adds a different dynamic. The Saints added a linebacker, Willie Gay, who came from the Chiefs. He's known for being that guy to be able to be that spy on some of these running quarterbacks, and has done a formidable job. Hasn't really been involved in the defense, but I think the New Orleans Saints actually brought him for this particular reason. I do think that the Saints will win the football game just for the absence of A.J. Brown. I just think that he's such a special player. And he demands so much attention. And when he's not out there, it's a lot on Devontae Smith. He did step up and make some plays in that game versus Atlanta, but you're asking a lot for that guy, to go out there. Dallas Goedert, I was expecting more out of him in that game. He was relatively absent. So I don't know what the chemistry is between him and Jalen, but I just think that the absence of A.J. Brown kind of gives the Saints that a little bit of an advantage in that department, I should say.
Right.
Yeah, we have some folks checking in, I guess. Some Saints fans. Trav 504, Robin 24541. Jerry says, "Hi, I'm here to support TJ Jones."
Thank you, Jerry.
Kingston got some Saints fans. Hector Lopez, shout out to TJ. Randall Boy. Trav 504, Jerry TJ, Chosen Kingston, Adrian Camille, Who Dat Fam, we here tonight. Noel Girl G, DMMG, Emmett Bean, Who Dat from Gaithersburg, Maryland.
You bringing a lot of fans in here, TJ.
Kendra.
Hey, I told him I was going to be on the show tonight. So
Who Dat
so
Saints win.
Yeah.
Saints win and make a statement this game. Kevin, so forgive me for not pronouncing your name right. Senior, what's good, TJ? Who Dat? Big Valley, Timer Network. Who's that? Let's go, TJ. DJ Twigga, Jerry G, my guy. Let's see. Somebody put listening in from Los Angeles. St. Gomer. XX Rico, the GOAT. Timer Network says he's scared of his TJ. Jerry G, nice to meet you, Mr. Al Norfleet and Mike Fuji. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yes. Now let me couple of things on Jalen. He did run more this past Monday night than what he has. And I think from the injury last year and then not playing in the preseason, he may have gotten that feel back Monday night. So I'm looking to see that incorporated in a little bit more this weekend because, like you say, the absence of AJ, they got to put all hands on deck. So I'm looking for them to do a lot more running with him. And then Saquon can get in there as well and hopefully try to have some type of confusion for the guys. But they got to be much better. And as much as everybody talking about how good the line is, they weren't bad last week, but they can do better as well.
TJ, you want to touch on something? Zach Bond came over to Philly from the Saints. Can you touch on him for the audience as far as Eagles fans?
Yeah, Zach Bond was Mike. Zach Bond was a 3rd round pick. He came out of Wisconsin. He was known as that guy that can pass rush the quarterback. That's what his role was with the Wisconsin Badgers. When the New Orleans Saints got him, they wanted him to be a weak side linebacker, a stand-up linebacker, and that just really wasn't him. It just didn't fit. He had issues like covering running backs in certain games, and they sent him to special teams. And he was formidable on special teams until like his final season with the New Orleans Saints. They allowed him to put his hand on the ground and rush the quarterback. I want to say he had maybe 6.5, maybe 7 sacks that season. And I just think that Philly is utilizing him the way that he should have been utilized when he first got into the league. Sometimes the Saints, they get a little bit too cute when it comes to some of these position guys. Like they bring in guys and they expect for them to change positions, get away from the things that made them special, made them draftable in the first place. And I just think that when it comes to Philadelphia, they're known for having those smaller hybrid type guys who can pass rush. And that kind of fits his mold there, you know. And I think that it's not a surprise to me that he's finding success in Philadelphia. He had that really good game versus Green Bay out there in Brazil. It didn't surprise me at all, man, because that's what he should have been doing with the New Orleans Saints. I think that he is one of those guys, just like Caden Ellis is with the Atlanta Falcons, just like what Trey Hendrickson was. You know, these teams are putting these guys in positions that the Saints didn't, and it's paying dividends. So I like Zach Bond a lot. I'm happy for him. It's always good to see guys, if it don't work out in their first stop, for them to generate levels of success wherever they go. I mean, I'm a fan of Zach Bond. I'm still going to be a fan of a guy. It's just a setup for a really good success story if he can maintain that momentum. I seen him making plays out there on Monday night, so hopefully he can keep that momentum going throughout the season.
The thing of it is, though, I mean, did he just fall down the depth chart, or was it just they just didn't want to sign him? Because I know Vic Fangio was a big fan of Zach Bond. That's why he brought Howie Roseman brought Zach Bond to Philly.
Yeah. I just think it wasn't a good fit, Mike. You know, sometimes like guys are the schemes just don't fit guys. So I just think that it just worked out for him. Like being in Philly, like it's not a surprise to me that he's finding that level of success. I mean, we see these hybrid type linebacker / DNs, wreak havoc and get home quite often in Philly. So he's a smart player. But I just think that the same scheme did not fit his skill set. So I don't think that it was just one of those reasons where, one of these facts that he just wasn't good enough to play. I just think that it wasn't a good match. And it's good because, people have a tendency when guys don't work out in their first stop, they wonder what's wrong with the guys. But we need to start asking ourselves what's wrong with the team and why didn't they put them in a position to succeed? And I'm glad that he's rising above that situation. He's changing that narrative. So he's a good player. He always has been. Just wasn't a good fit for the Saints.
Yeah. TJ, can you see these remarks coming on the screen?
Yeah, I can see him.
Yeah.
I can see him. You got
your Hudak brother in Philly.
Yeah, man. Shouts out to Eugene. Yeah, he lives out there in Philly. He always talks about being out there all the time, catching the subway, and talking about him wearing his Saint jerseys and some of the feedback he gets. Right? But Eugene has been a supporter of the state of the Saints for a very long time. But he's out there where you all are.
Okay, cool. Now, talking about the games again, there's really not a whole bunch of difference between Jalen Hurts and Derek Carr. According to the stats, Next Gen has Hurts ranked as 12 and Carr ranked as 13. Mm-hmm. So they, I won't say pretty even, but they're not far behind each other there. And so I'm looking forward to both quarterbacks, playing their best game. Like I said, New Orleans has been doing it, and Jalen's been up and down, but I don't think he had a bad game last year. But last week. But like most people are saying, a lot of the calls were the culprit of this particular game.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
How do you see our defense based on, the way you guys been playing? Just your personal opinion. How do you think they're going to stack up against each other?
Well, as far as Philadelphia's defense, I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier in the show. I just think Vic Fangio got to change it up. Like, he has to understand the pulse of the game. I want to say there's one word that describes why the Philadelphia Eagles lost the game on Monday, and that was arrogance. Like, I understand you have to trust the process, and I understand that you feel like you're good at what you do and you feel like you have the answers, but sometimes it's okay to try to change things up. It's okay to go for that field goal. It's okay for you to try to run the football, on 3rd and 4. What's the worst that can happen, right? You already found out that the tush push worked, on one of those drives. So,
Mm.
you know, I just think that it comes down to Vic Fangio, you know, understanding the pulse of the game. If you're not getting success rushing forward like you normally do, you got to come up with ways to try to get Derek Carr off his spot. Now, this offensive line of the New Orleans Saints going into the season, nobody expected this. I mean, there was a lot of question marks. If you read some of the beat writers, you know, articles about the offensive line, they were talking about they don't know how the Saints are going to survive this season. But Clint Kubiak has done a really good job at, you know, kind of disguising, you know, some of the imperfections and you know, that these offensive line have. I mean, they are, if they went back to being what they were last year, like it would have been obvious to everybody that this offensive line isn't very good. But what this new offense does is it covers up for the imperfections of players, you know, wide receivers, running backs, offensive linemen, what have you. And they're coming up with game plans week after week to be able to help this offensive line. So I think that the Eagles are going to have to kind of counterattack what Clint Kubiak is going to bring. They did a really good job with Michael Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence last week. I mean, even Michael Parsons said it was almost like he was going through a maze. Like they were chipping him at the line of scrimmage. Then the second level, you had a tight end who was going in motion, chipping him. And then you had the running back there for pass protection. So that's three guys. And the quarterback only is supposed to have about 3 seconds to throw the football. So by the time you touch Derek Carr, the ball is out his hands. So they're coming up with different ways to try to make this offensive line look formidable. So Vic Fangio is going to have to counteract that, Al and Mike. You know, that's the only way they're going to be able to generate success. If not, then you're going to give Derek Carr enough time to be able to get the ball down the field. And if he's getting the ball down the field, you know, you're going to be converting plays. You're going to be getting first downs. And it's going to be tough for, you know, this offense to go toe-to-toe with the Saints offense, you know, it riding high the way that it is. So they got to be able to put emphasis on trying to get pressure on Derek Carr. But the number one thing would be to stop the run. They got to be able to neutralize Alvin Kamara. And you got to put the ball into the hands of Derek Carr. You know, Derek Carr is a good quarterback, but he is susceptible to throwing an interception. He gets a little bit of happy feet when you get pressure on him. So, you know, to me, I think in order for this defense to wreak some havoc and do some things, they got to neutralize the running game of the New Orleans Saints.
Well, as far as the Saints defense, now to switch gears, I mean, you brought in Chase Young, Willie Gay.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you still got Honey Badger back there. So, I mean, I don't know. To me, on paper, it looks like, you know, your Saints, you know, a pretty underrated defense.
Yeah, I mean, the defense has always been good, Mike. You know, they've always had a championship-style defense. Even last year, they were ranked in the top 10. I want to say they as a defense, offense is averaging maybe between 18 and 19 points a game. I mean, it's always been formidable. What you're seeing right now is basically the offense complementing the defense. And, you know, people aren't really paying attention to the defense, Mike, because of this offense and how explosive they've been over the last 2 weeks. But for the last 3 years, this defense has been carrying this team. And, you know, you add Chase Young, who's in a contract year himself. He signed a one-year, $13 million deal. And you also have Willie Gay, who signed a one-year, $5 million deal. So what you have are two guys playing for long-term contracts, rather it's be with the New Orleans Saints or some other team. And Chase Young is 24 years old, so he can set himself up for one, even two more paydays before his career is all said and done. So I think you're seeing a hungry Chase Young and a hungry Willie Gay. And I think that if these guys perform, the Saints will pay them or some other team will.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah.
Now, somebody had asked a question a few minutes ago, what was the Eagles defense ranked at so far? And they are ranked,
I believe,
number
27.
30, number 30 out of 32 teams.
30? All right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I have the next gen stats here, and that's what they're ranked at. But again, beginning of the year, and a lot of people always saying, well, you know, we didn't play during the preseason, which is true, but at the point you're still getting paid, and you got to get out there and put your best foot forward, which I think will happen. By the third game, I believe that everyone should be on the same page and our season should start to looking a lot better. After this game this weekend, I think we'll be a much better team.
Oh, I mean, we go back to preseason. I'm not sure, TJ would say any of the Saints starters played, but none of the Eagles starters played at all in the preseason. So these guys are, the cohesiveness just, ain't clicking yet. Usually takes, I'd say, a good month, 4 to 6 weeks before you really see what you're really made of. So, get these guys familiarized on both sides of the ball. I mean, different faces, different schemes, 2 different coordinators on our side here in Philly anyway. So, it's like Rob said. I mean, as far as that pass rush, it's 2 weeks. There's a little bit cause for concern, but hopefully, Vic Fangio will be able to turn this ship around and get us out of the 30 hole as far as defense.
Yeah. I think that what teams are dealing with, number one, you both alluded to it. These starters aren't getting enough time in preseason. The Saints, their starters played in 2 out of the 3 preseason games, and they didn't play one series. They played like 2 or 3 series. And also, you combine the fact that I think that the reason why the Saints kind of started off fast is because of the continuity offensively and defensively. We talked about Chase Young and we talked about Willie Gay, but along that defensive front, those guys were there last year. Second level, Demario Davis, Pete Warner, they were there last year. Alon Taylor, Paulson Adebo, Marshawn Lattimore, the Honey Badger, they were there last year. So you have a few new faces on the defensive line, and you have maybe 1, 2 guys on offensive line. Talais Fuaga, the rookie out of Oregon State, and you also have Lucas Patrick, who came over from the Bears. But you have Cesar Ruiz, who was there. You got Eric McCoy that was there. Trevor Penning, who was there. So it's continuity. And also, those guys playing together and getting those preseason reps. I just think that preseason sometimes can be, a little bit, underrated when it comes to, the success and when teams are hitting the ground running. I mean, look at the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is out there playing in preseason. I don't think it's a coincidence that you're seeing some of these teams that are taking preseason reps seriously, and by the time week 1, week 2 come around, I mean, they're already hitting the ground running because they already established that chemistry. They already kind of know what's going on. They got film to kind of go back and look at some of the things that they need to do. Even though most offenses and defenses are pretty simplistic, you still have something on tape that you can actually, bind together and figure out. So I think that these teams that are getting off to slow starts, like the Cincinnati Bengals, like some of these other teams that constantly get off to a slow start, I think they may need to go back into the drawing board and maybe look at some of the practices they have. I understand you don't want to get one of your top guys hurt, but at the same time, you want to be able to hit the ground running because every game matters. This could be one of those games. I hope it's not for you guys, but it could be one of those games where you look back and you're like, man, we should have won that game. I'm going to give you one more example, and I'll be quiet. There was a game, the Saints versus the Green Bay Packers. The Saints had a lead in that game. Fourth quarter, Jordan Love throws a touchdown. Green Bay wins by 1. Green Bay at the end of the season last year goes 9-8. The Saints go 9-8. If the Saints if they won that game, then they would have been in the playoffs besides the Green Bay Packers. So you got to be able to hit the ground running. You never know when one of these games are going to matter. Hopefully for you all, once again, it's not one of those situations where you look back and like, you know what? I hope that this game, didn't shoot us in the foot here. And, hopefully you won't look back and be like, if we would have beat these Atlanta Falcons, we had that game won. And that's the reason why we're on the outside looking in. Hopefully that's not the case.
Right. All right. I mean, you look down the end of the stretch, down the end of the season, down the road at the end of the season where, it's a conference game. And, those conference games could, really come into play after the division. Got a comment here. Akeem Batiste, thanks for checking in. Philly had trouble stopping the run Monday night. I hope that's the case Sunday. that's the key to the Saints' success on offense. Because
You know, Mike, we gotta start to getting these Eagles fans in here, like these Saints fans.
to represent.
They're all in here tonight, boy.
Showing the love for our man TJ Jones here.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, but touch on Alvin Kamara. The way hopefully this defensive line will, come together on a short week. But the way Kamara just ran roughshod over that Dallas defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's looking for a contract too, though, isn't he, Alvin Kamara?
Yeah, he's definitely looking for a contract. And I never looked at Alvin Kamara and thought like something was wrong with him. Over the last couple of years, he's had some down seasons, but I think you have to chunk that up to the offense. Pete Carmichael, who was the offensive coordinator with the New Orleans Saints for 14 seasons, to me, he just had that entitled. We know who was calling the plays during the game, and that was Sean Payton. And Sean Payton was the guy who was putting Alvin Kamara in the right position to succeed. And now, when Pete Carmichael came along after Sean Payton stepped down, he got away from the things that made Alvin Kamara special, catching the ball out of the backfield, running screen plays, angle routes. And now you have in Clint Kubiak, he understands the matchup problem that Alvin Kamara causes to a defense. And, with this wide zone, it gives you options and lanes to run through. He's just picking the right lane. He's always been a smart football player. He's always made really good decisions. It was just up to the New Orleans Saints to utilize his skill set. So, it's not a surprise to me that Alvin Kamara is looking the way that he is. I just think that he just needed somebody to be able to bring that out of him again. And unfortunately for the Saints, they should have paid him in the offseason when he was asking for this money, because they got that saying, yesterday's price is not today's price. And, the fact that he's out here, he's slowly like separating himself from, their grasp, because they already have been dealing with cap issues. And you got some young guys that you're going to have to pay down the line, like Paulson Adebo, like Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed. So I think they should have handled that business early. Now he's going to be trying to get paid like some of these top running backs are, or probably even set the market.
Right. Yeah.
Now, sorry about that. TJ, looking from an opponent and looking at our defensive line, what do you think of Jalen Carter?
I think Jalen Carter is a very talented player. But one thing about Jalen Carter and what I've learned over the course of time, I'll never forget this. I'll never forget this. I was actually going to the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, and I just got off the plane, and I can just see like a bunch of reporters like kind of, congregating. It was around the time when he was supposed to speak to the media, but he got into those issues out there in Georgia. Mm-hmm. And it was like, he's not going to speak. He's not going to speak at the press conference. He's leaving the combine. And, that was alarming to me. But I always thought like he's a good football player. He just needs somebody to kind of keep him focused. And I think when Fletcher Cox was there, I think he was such a leader. Like he was a guy that can kind of wrap his arms around this young guy. But now when you look at the defensive line room, you don't have that. I mean, you got your former teammate in Jordan Davis. You got Nakobe Dean. You got some guys that you kind of grew up, on a collegiate level with, and you just so happen to be on the same team. You got some leadership, of course, out there, but, I just think that he needs somebody to kind of reel him in. I mean, I heard that, he ended up like getting fined and he had to sit out a few plays because he showed up late. You got to be a professional. But I think that what you're seeing right now is a young football player that has the talent, but he needs to be able to figure it out. And there's two ways you can go with this. You can kind of be like Ndamukong Suh, like how he was, when he first got into the league, he was a little bit violent. He a little bit of a hothead, but as he got older, he kind of understood like this ain't what I need to do. I'm going to find myself on outs. Or you can be Albert Hainsworth, a guy that has a bunch of potential that he never really lived up to it, taking plays off, not really interested, not really engaged. So I think he's standing at a crossroads right now of his career. But when he's out there on the field, he's extremely noticeable. If I'm not mistaken, he had 6 sacks last year. I mean, he has everything in front of him. Aaron Donald retired last year. He has the opportunity to be one of the best interior linemen in football, but it's up to Jalen Carter. But when he's out there, he makes a difference. But I think he's missing Fletcher Cox right now. Sometimes you need that veteran. Just like with the Honey Badger, when he first got into the league, he came into the league with a lot of issues. He came in, but then you had Patrick Peterson out there in Arizona, and he wrapped his arms around him, taught him how to be a leader. So I think somebody right now on that defense needs to wrap their arms around Jalen Carter and give him the focus. I think that's his biggest issue. But when he's engaged, he's one of the most dangerous defensive players in football. At least he can be.
Yeah.
When you touch on that, there's a report that Fletcher Cox came out the other night and blasted that defensive line. Like, what's going on, guys? Like, you say, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, he's 3rd round pick, probably been in the league 4 years.
Right.
Underrated player, but it's like I'm just kind of surprised Howie Roseman didn't go out and bring in like a Calais Campbell or another defensive veteran presence, to keep these guys like afloat like Fletcher Cox did. Like you said, Patrick Peterson with the Honey Badger, just taking a guy under his wing and schooling him to be a leader. Like, that's what I think this defensive line needs. But they don't have a Fletcher Cox presence now.
Yeah, I agree. Now, I just think that the young guys, they need that veteran. You got Brandon Graham. He's a leader. Don't get me wrong. I respect the heck out of Brandon Graham. Still doing it at 35 years old. Still out there making plays. But sometimes you need that guy in your position room that has been there, that has done that. But I do agree with you, Mike. I think that Howie Roseman and the staff has done a really good job at bringing guys in over the last couple of years that can make a difference and an immediate impact on the defensive side of the football. But I just think that what you're seeing right now is you had 2 of the best leaders on your team in Fletcher Cox and Jason Kelsey. Those 2 guys are gone, man. Those guys are difference makers. And sometimes you need that leadership inside of your locker room. And when you have those young guys that's been around maybe for a year or 2, they're still learning how to be professionals. They're still learning how to be pros. And if they don't have the right people around them, even though they might have some veterans, but if you have a veteran that's more of a me guy instead of a we guy, guess what? You're going to have yourself a divided locker room. And you're also going to have a lot of young players that are going to have to figure it out by themselves, which is a recipe for disaster, if you ask me, because some of these players that come into the league, as soon as they hit the ground running, they're focused, they can be pros. But some of those guys, they need a little bit of fine tuning and a little bit of mentorship. So I think that's what's missing from this defense right now.
Well, you make a good point. BG, being leader on that defensive line, and also, Lane Johnson, Eagles right tackle, and you have that veteran presence, but like you said, I don't think people realize, Cam Jurgens, I'm sure he's going to be, big shoes to fill, and under Jason Kelsey, and it's like, like you said. 2 potential Hall of Famers, Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, and those guys are gone. You still got Lane and Brandon Grant, but, that presence of those, even with Jalen Hurts being under center, and it's just, that they are big shoes to fill. And like I said, 2 weeks into the season, that cohesiveness just ain't clicking yet, at least on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah. You never want to be the man after the man. Just know.
Unless you're Ric Flair. But...
Yep.
Now, going forward in this season, how is your strength of schedule? How's the New Orleans strength of schedule?
Well, based on what I know right now, okay, so of course the Saints play the Eagles this Sunday. Then after that, they go on the road to take on the Atlanta Falcons, a division rival there. Then they have a Monday Night Football matchup versus the Chiefs, and then you play Tampa Bay. So those are the next few games, and then after that, the schedule kind of laxes a little bit. You get your Giants, you get some of these other teams that's out here that's still trying to figure it out. You get the Denver Broncos. Sean Payton is coming back to the Superdome. That should be interesting. You get the Raiders, who look pretty formidable. That's towards the end of the season. I'm just calling out. Of course, we play all the rest of the NFC East teams, the Commanders and the Giants. So, it's a right. The start of the season is where a lot of people thought the Saints would struggle because it's pretty much murderous row. You look at the Atlanta Falcons and the improvements they made. A lot of people thought that maybe it would have been too much for the New Orleans Saints playing a world champion Kansas City Chiefs, Cowboys, winning 12 games, 16-game regular season home winning streak. So a lot of that stuff was taken into consideration. So, the Saints are actually much better than a lot of people gave them credit because they only had them beating Carolina in week 1. So if the Saints can actually pull off in these 5 games, maybe a 3-2 record, they're sitting pretty good in the catbird seat, as they say, going down the stretch. You still got some tough games because, I'm not really good. I don't like when people say, oh, they got an easy schedule, because teams get better every single year. Then like some teams, they probably had a bunch of injuries. They probably got decimated by injuries. They probably had some coaching issues that they fixed. Look at the Chargers. The Chargers are 2-0 right now. So, they just got to keep their head down. But right now they're sitting pretty. So if they can win 3 out of these next 5 games, you're sitting really good, and you still have everything in front of you.
Mike?
Sean, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of Sean Payton. TJ, just got one quick question for you.
Uh-huh.
I know you had Sean Payton down there in the Big Easy for a long time.
Right.
Now, I don't know what's going on in Denver. Rookie quarterback. Now, I don't want to take nothing away from Sean Payton, but was it Drew Brees or was it Drew Brees and Sean Payton? Because I just don't – I can't put my finger on it. No disrespect to Sean Payton, but his success in Denver really don't look like it's really, second year isn't really starting off on the right foot.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think that Sean Payton and Drew Brees collectively as a unit basically changed the culture of New Orleans Saints football. Look, I'm not a delusional Saints fan. I know where the Saints came from. I know that there's this old saying, they had 2 Saints tickets on the front seat, and a guy came back, he seen his glass was broken, he had 4 Saints tickets on his seat. It was pretty bad, man. It was pretty bad. But they changed the culture of how people think about New Orleans Saints football together as a group. What you're seeing, Mike and Al, we're seeing a shift when it comes to this offense. You're seeing the Kyle Shanahan wide zone kind of taking over the league, and that classic Bill Walsh style West Coast offense kind of becoming passé. And I just think that you're actually seeing this new guard being able to overtake this young guard offensively and defensively. Because I was looking at a lot of these games, and you look at Mike Zimmer, who has been a defensive coordinator for I don't know how long in the National Football League. Clint Kubiak, a 37-year-old offensive coordinator. Zach Robinson against Vic Fangio, who is a well-respected defensive coordinator. And now you look at some of these offenses that's running that traditional West Coast style, you're starting to see them have a little bit of struggle. And I think that's what the Denver Broncos are going through right now. Sean Payton is at a crossroads. You can stay true to yourself and keep on doing that same traditional West Coast offense thing, Or you can kind of go to these high schools, these colleges, and seeing what guys like Lincoln Riley is doing out there in USC, and and see what Lane Kiffin is doing out there at Ole Miss, and bring some of that to the National Football League. And you also have to go to Oregon, see what Bo Nix was doing that was making him successful with the high completion percentage out there. So you got to be able to incorporate that. You can't just be so true to yourself and saying, hey, I won a Super Bowl, I changed around the New Orleans Saints, and this is how I did it. Sometimes you got to come a little bit more humble and realize that maybe what I'm doing, I need to change up before it's too late. Now, Sean Payton has always done that. I will give him credit. There's been times where he can be a little bit stubborn when it comes to some of his practices, but eventually he kind of conforms and changes things around. So I expect for his offense to change a little bit. Maybe bring in someone that can kind of be familiar with some of the new innovative offenses that's coming around and turn this thing around. But, as far as Bo Nix, he's a rookie, and this is how rookies look. I just think that last year with C.J. Stroud, everybody just automatically just thought, man, this is what rookies look like. This is the standard now. No, it's not. I mean, if you look at it, Caleb Williams, 2 interceptions last week. Bo Nix, 2 interceptions last week. So these guys are going to go through some growing pains. That just comes with the territory.
Well, another thing is too, you look at C.J. Stroud now, 1 year under his belt and a couple games in the new year, and defenses, the coordinators have the tapes on these guys. So let's see what they can do in C.J. Stroud's sophomore year now.
Yeah.
So second year.
Let me since you were talking about Sean Payton. I'll tell you 2 little quick stories about Sean Payton. It was about 8-9 years ago when they was here in Philly. And I think they won the game. Sean used to coach here in Philly as well. And so they got on the bus, and Sean, he looked at me and he said, hey, Bussy, said, I want to go around the stadium twice, and I'm going to flip everybody the bird. I said, sir, I can't do that. So I told my police escort, I said, hey, the coach wants to go around the stadium. She said, you tell him he ain't taking his ass nowhere. And then the next year, when they came down, he knows that people constantly throws things at the bus. So he bought a big Target sign for all 6 buses that covers from the bottom of the bus to the top of the bus, so people could throw rocks at the bus when the team left the stadium.
There's another.
He made me mad that day, but it wasn't much I can say about it.
Another tidbit about Sean Payton. Sean Payton is actually from right outside of Philly. I can't think of out towards Westchester.
Yeah.
The section. Roderick Williams, best post I saw. Saints fans must have let the windows down on the car because they are all feeling that breeze again, and it's warm. Oh man.
Oh man, that's a good play on words right there.
That is.
Okay, few more questions before we wrap this thing up. Your predictions, TJ.
Well, my prediction is I have the Saints winning this football game, but I just think that it's going to be a little bit more competitive than the last 2 games. I take into account everybody's been singing their praises this week. I expect for the Eagles to kind of be dialed in. Some of those analytics that you alluded to, Al, I think that, I'm pretty sure they're reading that inside of the room, and letting these guys know, look, this is where we are right now, but this is where we want to be. And it can start by beating this red hot team right here. So I expect for them to come in prepared. I expect for them to come through with a really good game plan. And, I expect for them to be formidable. But I do think that the New Orleans Saints are going to win this football game just for the simple fact. I think that A.J. Brown missing in this game is huge. And also, I just got to see this pass rush be able to get home. I see this offensive line, the way that they've been playing, the emphasis on the run. I mean, the fact that Bijan Robinson last week, I mean, he was running wild, and so did Tyler Algier. But, you know, to the credit of the Eagles, you all ran the ball really well, too. I mean, 22 carries, 96 yards for Saquon Barkley, a 4.5 average. That's not too shabby, but it kind of got overshadowed because of the loss in the drop pass. He played pretty well. So the Saints are going to have to be able to neutralize Saquon as well. And if you combine the fact that I'm pretty sure he's going to be pretty motivated after probably hearing some of the things that was said about him dropping that pass this week, I expect for him to be able to come in and do some things and be formidable. So, but I just think that the New Orleans Saints, I think they're dialed in. I don't think they're reading the press clippings, which is very refreshing for me as a fan and as an onlooker of the team. So I just think that they're going to do what needs to be done. But it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be one of the game of the weekend because I think that Philly is going to come in ready to play.
What is your score?
Well, I have the Saints winning a football game. I got them winning 35 to 20. But I just think it's going to get pulled. It's probably going to pull away a little bit later in the game.
Mike, your prediction?
I'm going to put it on Jake Elliott. I'm going to go Eagles 26, Saints 23.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to go with a 30-27 Eagles.
Okay.
And I simply say that because they need to bounce back, and I think they will be focused this week. They cannot use where we're not in shape anymore. We didn't play. They just got to go out there and do it. And we do have some leaders, and those leaders, I think, will be in everybody's ear this week and on the practice field. So I'm looking for much better results this week.
Jalen better be lighting fires under people down in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, one last thing I want to say to both of you before we get off this thing. I know last year, I don't know if you read about it, TJ, but everybody was talking about Jalen's emotions on the sideline, and he's always sitting down and he's not up rah-rah, and everybody can't be like that. But I have seen a difference in him this year thus far. Now, both of you, do you think his leadership or the change in his leadership style will eventually kick in and they will see him and feel him as that leader?
You want me to answer this first? Mike?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, to me, as long as it's genuine, because if you've been playing organized sports long enough or being around someone long enough, like, if it's genuine and if it's not. If it's just a guy that's trying to be something that he's not. As long as it's genuine, it's true, and it's coming from a place of passion and not just from a place of theatrics, I think that it will work. I think that guys will buy in, but I think the best way for any player to buy in is to see the guy that's rah-rah and holding guys accountable for them to go out there and be balling out. You can't be in somebody's face and holding them accountable and you're playing lackluster. Yeah. So I like the approach. I like the fact that he is, taking more of that leadership role, coming out of his shell, if you will. But you got to play better. There was some plays, in that game he could have made that game more interesting. That interception, I don't know, man. You got to take that sack. I don't know if you want to just throw that ball down the field into triple coverage like that. You got to be able to see the field. So, and also just on top of that, like I say, you just got to play your best football. I mean, this guy's maybe 2 years removed from being one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I don't think Shane Steichen's absence should be that significant to his career. Right. So I think it's time for him to, kind of show everybody the Jalen Hurts. There was a couple plays from winning a Super Bowl. The Jalen Hurts that outplayed Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl. So that's the best way to do it. Stepping up, making plays, and letting your team follow you because you're balling out and complement your intensity.
I think everything's there with Jalen. It's just he tries to do too much. Tries to do too much on his own, and it's That's why he brought in A.J. Brown. That's why he drafted Devontae Smith. That's why he gave Saquon Barkley almost $35 million over the next 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So you're the general on the field, but hey, it's, that's why you got all these weapons around. You can't be Superman all the time.
Right. Okay. Guys, appreciate it. TJ, thank you so much for your time, for your insight, man.
Appreciate
it was and love all the fans that you brought in.
Thank you for all the Saints fans checking in.
Yeah, and thank y'all for having me. And Mike, I just want to say this, man. I can remember when I was first doing podcasting, and man, I was just starting out, and you all reached out to me. You were actually the first podcaster, that actually reached out to me, man. And that meant a lot to me. And that's why I say anytime you ask me to be anywhere, I'm here, man.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Appreciate you coming on, chopping it up with us.
Yeah, thank you, man.
All
Good
right.
luck to you guys this week.
All right, everybody. This has been At the 50 with Fuji and Fleet, and our guest today has been TJ Jones of the Saints Podcast. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening. All you Saints fans, appreciate you showing up and showing out. Thank you so much, everybody.
Go
Have
Birds.
a great evening, man.